it's that time of the year again to talk about the pilot shortage. This is the 2024 edition of the pilot shortage. Welcome to Aviation Careers Podcast. My name is Carl Valeri, and I'll be your host today. This is the inspirational, informational, and transparent podcast about aviation careers. This question comes from our contact page. It's a really good question. It's one I should have answered back in January, but if you have questions, feedback at aviationcareerspodcast.com or go to our contact page, just like this person did here. So let's just get into it real quickly here. First of all, I know a lot of people come here for that scholarships guide. We have over $120 million of scholarships in that guide, and you can get a free one yourself at aviationcareerspodcast.com/payitforward. You can find out more about how you can pay it forward too by going to that page. We also are changing our feed. So if you could, please follow us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube at Aviation Careers. It's Flying Careers on Twitter, or X as they call it. So go check out those scholarships, aviationcareerspodcast.com/payforward if you're looking for one of those free scholarships. This current question came from our YouTube channel through our contact page, and it's a really good question. So let's go ahead and read that question. We'll get a little bit into this. It says, "Hi, Carl. I appreciate the topics you bring to us through the YouTube and enjoy hearing your voice on all aviation topics. The reason for my message today, the pilot community needs you to discuss the pilot shortage in the USA for 2024 and 2025. New pilots are concerned about the hiring slowdown, especially those still training who are building their hours towards ATP. I know there's a video about this topic on your channel, but things are changing rapidly, and we would love to hear your opinion. Many low-time pilots groups on Facebook are having conversations concerning whether we will have a job after getting our airline transport pilot minimums. Are we heading to those days working for $20 an hour as first officer for the regionals? A lot of news is coming out about airliners slowing down hiring for 2024, and many pilots with ATP are struggling to get a job now. We'd like to hear from you as a low-time pilot community." Well, thanks for the question. First of all, the sky is not falling. And as far as the pilot shortage is concerned, we're going to dive really into this right now, and we're going to take a look at some of the statistics here as far as that's concerned. But I do understand your concern. First of all, there's nobody out there that can predict the future. I know I have my crystal ball. My crystal ball says in the next 10, 20 years, we'll probably have a downturn, but we're also going to have a really great environment. But instead of just using that crystal ball, we're going to go into some statistics here. So I think in general, we have a great outlook for pilots in the future. Whether you're trying to time the market or not is a different story, and I think that's kind of what you're looking at. When you get to your 1,500 hours, is there going to be a job available? Well, if you're building hours right now, you have a job. So you do have a job in the airline industry. So let's delve a little bit deeper into that. But first, let's kind of define what that pilot shortage is. In general, we have a shortage of qualified pilots. We're still seeing that at the regionals, but in general, over the past 10 years, we've had less people moving into this career field with the ability to go get hired by a major airline, meaning they don't have their 1,500 hours. They don't have their ATP. Are there people getting into this? Yeah, of course. But they need to get their 1,500 hours so they can get hired and have their ATP minimums. That's the issue. That's the pilot shortage. Part of that was caused, of course, by the change in the standards, and that's just the way it was. Back in the old days, 250 hours, you were a pilot with an airline, flying a jet. Nowadays, you got to wait a little bit longer. Whether you have a degree or you have bachelor's, associates, or no degree, you're still going to need that 1,500 hours to be a captain on an airliner. So what is the pilot shortage? It is a shortage of qualified pilots. But let's take a look at some of the different news out there. You'll see, and I'm going to put some of these up on the screen here. The hiring climate in 2024 is slowing down based on, I think, some of those things that you're seeing out there. One by, and I have the article here by Skift talking about how Delta is going to hire less pilots this year. Also, we talk about the Frontier Airlines pilot over at Airline Geeks has a good article about how they're slowing their pilot hiring through, their programs that they have out there, especially through their cadet programs. Those are all out there. All these other airlines have been talking about it. Record year 2024 for hiring. But just remember the airlines are still hiring. As a matter of fact, most times, even when everybody is furloughing, quote unquote, everybody, there is somebody hiring somewhere. So I want you to take that into account. But in general, are we having a slowdown in this market, in the hiring market? Yeah, but gosh, things are just absolutely, terrific compared to the way they were years ago. Going back to your question, are we going to go back to $20 an hour? We probably won't see that $20 an hour jobs again. I'm not saying we won't. I doubt it. But you may see some of those bonuses go away, like those bonuses we talk about, like you're getting the $100,000 bonuses, et cetera, for just signing up for a regional airline. That's pretty incredible. That's pretty amazing. I think we're going to see a little bit stopping in that direction. So there are still airlines hiring. Just remember this, that you may have to not look at the majors. You may have to go to the regionals for a little while before you get hired at a major. And I know some people are looking at me like I'm crazy, but there are people that have thought that they would just go right from a flight school to a major airline, and that's been happening. You may have to look at going through a regional first before you get there. One of the things I really would recommend you doing, though, and I'm not going to go into in this video because I talk about it a lot, is the 12 actions you should take during a hiring slowdown. That's in one of my other YouTube videos, and I have a link in the description here. That I think is going to be very helpful for you, and I know that when you do those things, they will really help you. So do this for me, though. Just make sure you look at the long-term goal. Don't focus on the short term. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. You are going towards a career in aviation. So the real question should be, what is going to happen beyond, beyond this next year? And will there be jobs available in the next 10, 20 years? Is it still a good career to go into? Absolutely it is. And I believe that even with all these changes going on with AI, et cetera. So the other thing that I think is really important in this environment is have plan B. You really need to have plan B. Make sure you have another plan in place so that if that one major airline that you thought you were going to get hired into after flying that 172 isn't there, you can go ahead and head out to that other plan B. Might be flying corporate, might be flying for a regional. It could be flying overseas. You really don't know. Let's take a look at, though, some other stats so that you don't just believe me in the future hiring. So let's look at future hiring. And remember, these are economists, and these are the government economists that are looking at this through the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. They have some really good information out there looking at the long term, and they talk about how we're going to see an increase about 7% to 4% per year for pilots, an overall increase up to 13% over a different chunk of time. What does that mean? Yes, it's growing. The number of pilots are growing, but also we have to look at this a little bit differently too. It's not just those stats, but remember that some airlines are going to be hiring more and because of the attrition. And what does that mean? That means people are leaving normally because of the fact that they're retiring. So just remember that there's certain airlines that are going to be affected a lot differently through this period. So you want to look at those there. It may not be the airline that you really wanted to go to, but it is an airline job and it'll help you move forward in your career. So the other part of this too, and let's think about this, over the next 5 years, the median salary, right, in this past environment, 2023, we're looking at and that was last year, $211,000 as the median pay, and that's still a good salary versus $46,000 for all occupations that are out there. So just remember that's still a really good pay out there. So just take a look at that. Hopefully, I know our kind of fire alarm is being tested here. Hopefully you won't hear that too much. But the other thing too is that if we look at other stats, not just BLS, let's look at some of the stats of Boeing. Boeing puts out some statistics as far as the pilot and technical job outlets, and it's looking really good. They look out to 2042. They look at how many jobs are going to be out there, and there's really some really good data out there. I'm going to pull some of that on the screen. Talks about the China all over, Middle East, Latin America, North America, about 127,000 pilots between 23 and 42. That's still a lot of people. So yes, is the hiring outlook good? Again, it is good. Is it good in the next 6 months? Well, gosh, that all depends. If we have another pandemic, if we go to war, if something changes, then yeah, it might get worse. If we have a recession, but that's only in the short term. So stop looking at the short term, please. So it really does take years to get to your final goal. And as I always say, give yourself 3 years up to as much as 10 years to get to your ultimate flying goal. And I don't mean that's a regional. I mean the ultimate flying goal. It's not just flying a jet. It's the one airline or the thing that you want to do. Maybe it's flying a certain airplane. Give yourself time to get that goal. Can you do it in 3 years? Of course you can. Get really focused and get a little bit lucky. How to get lucky? Make your own luck. Build your hours, but don't stop. And the most important thing is keep flying. Keep flying. This is the biggest mistake I see people make. And it's going to happen again during this period. So you want to make yourself competitive? There's going to be a lot of people out there that are going to stop flying right now because they're online listening to these forums. The sky's falling. They're going to quit. And what you can do is not quit and build your hours. So say this guy doesn't fall, you're going to get hired. Say this guy does fall, and it's going to be a while till the hiring picks up again. Well, you're going to have more hours than everybody else when they come back to flying. I wish I had a dime for everybody that called me and told me, hey, listen, I started back into this career just as a downturn started. And that is one of those things that really kind of, it pulls at my heartstrings because I wish these people didn't stop. I wish they kept flying because right as things got better, there was this huge hiring scenario that happens. And that scenario may have been perfect for you, whereas that on the next downturn, they didn't get stuck in a furlough. There's so many people that keep constantly getting stuck in those downturns. The best way to not is to keep flying, keep moving forward. And make sure you are flexible. So make sure you're flexible and you play that long game. Look at other markets. There's a great article out there. I'll put it also up on the screen. It's from Cranky Flyer. I thought that was kind of cool. They have some really interesting commentary. When certain markets go from hot to cold, a great example they talk about is the Orlando market and how that has changed dramatically. And I'm just bringing that article up just to just look at some microeconomics here. Look at a small market and see that, hey, maybe you need to change your goals. If it was Orlando as your only goal, that's the only place you're going to go, you're going to really disappoint yourself. Look outwards, maybe some other city in Florida, the Southeast in the U.S., Canada. It could be somewhere else, China, somewhere that you might want to fly. So make sure you look into other markets. And the reason I bring that up is because markets change. Different types of markets change. There's a slowdown right now in some of the domestic flying, although that's coming back a little bit right now. But that's as of right now on February 6th of 2024 that I'm actually recording this. That doesn't matter. Let's not just look at today. Let's look at the long term. And that's what I really like to do on this channel is just talk about the long term because, I've been in this industry coming up on 25 years. I really enjoy it. Is it worth it? Absolutely, it's worth it. I just wish that we taught people things like compound interest and also taught people how to look at a career and looking at the long term. Because you hear about all these people making lots of money by just putting away $100. Well, that's because they started when they were very young because they understood the concept of compound interest. Well, you also can understand that building your hours is a day-to-day effort. So that's incredibly important to do that. So the other thing I can suggest, and I know this question comes in from the online forums, and I know the forums are terrific for some information, but you might want to stay off the forums for a little while. Get off Facebook, get off all these other forums, and because a lot of them are just echo chambers for negativity, and for your own personal health. Make sure that to move forward in your career, you constantly are looking towards positive people. Look at these podcasts, look at others, and the ones that are actually promoting positivity, because there are so many people out there negative. And you also can look at one of my episodes I did a long time ago, The Theory of Negativity. I'll link that down here in the show notes. So stay off the forums for a little while. Just focus on your career. Don't think about what's happening in the future right now. Just focus on getting your hours and moving forward. Control your emotions as much as possible. So in conclusion, there's a slowing market, but the future looks good. Continually make yourself competitive. Continually do what's best for your career and what's best for your flight hours, building your number of hours, but also your ratings and what's going to make you more marketable to, say, another flight school. Take a look at places like, getting your instrument rating so you can go work at or CFII, I should say, so you can work for one of these large flight schools. A lot of them won't take you unless you have your II. So there's a lot of things you need to do there. But most importantly, do this for me, please. Take one step today to move forward in your career. Ignore the what's going on around you. Make sure that you take a step every single day to move forward in your career. And you know what? You'll get there. It's just like that compounding interest. The one step you make today to move forward in your career might be a big step. It might be a small leap. It might be listening to one of these podcasts. But the most important thing you can do for me is to take one step today to move forward in your career and your life. And I know you can do it. And I can't wait to see you and hear your stories about moving forward in your career and your life. Well, I'll talk to you next episode. Stay flying out there.